Welcome to Room 57, where we explore extraordinary stories, uncover hidden secrets, and delve into the most controversial issues of the modern world. Today, we'll be looking into one of the most famous cases in the history of Bitcoin, Darknet, and even the legal system. You've probably heard of Silk Road, one of the largest Darknet marketplaces where illegal transactions occurred undetected. The mastermind behind Silk Road was none other than Ross Ulbricht, a person with controversial ideas who, unintentionally, created a revolution in the world of cryptocurrency. From the rise of Silk Road to the way Bitcoin became the most important currency in the global economy, and from Ross Ulbricht's landmark trial to the debates about a possible pardon for him, all of this creates a dramatic and fascinating story that we will analyze in today's video. So, who is Ross Ulbricht really? How did Silk Road impact the development of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? And does he deserve a second chance in life? Join Room 57 as we dive into this story from the most insightful and comprehensive angles. Get ready for a journey full of drama, intrigue, and controversy. Let's begin now. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this video so you don't miss out on more in-depth analyses and explorations of other controversial stories on Room 57. Part 1, Introduction to Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht, the beginning of a revolution. Many of us have likely heard the name Ross Ulbricht, the founder of Silk Road, one of the largest black markets on the Darknet. Silk Road became a symbol of the growth of online black markets and sparked widespread debate about internet freedom, cryptocurrency, and anonymity in online transactions. Silk Road, the black market on the Darknet. Silk Road was launched in 2011 and became one of the most significant and influential Darknet platforms. The Darknet is a part of the internet that is not accessible through standard search engines, where all transactions take place anonymously and remain unmonitored. Silk Road offered an online marketplace for buying and selling illegal items, primarily drugs, weapons, illegal services, and stolen data. What made Silk Road unique was its payment system. All transactions were carried out using Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency that was still relatively new at the time. Bitcoin not only provided secure transactions, but also ensured complete anonymity, making Silk Road an ideal environment for illegal transactions. Everything on Silk Road was anonymous and nearly impossible to trace, which is why the platform attracted a large user base from all around the world. Ross Ulbricht, the man behind Silk Road. Ross Ulbricht, born in 1984, was a young man with a curious and controversial vision of personal freedom and the internet. He was the founder of Silk Road and ran the platform under the alias Dread Pirate Roberts, a name he borrowed from the character in the film The Princess Bride. Although he was just 29 years old when he was arrested, Ross had an audacious vision of freedom on the internet and how technology could create a world free from control. With Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht wanted to build a free marketplace where individuals could trade without government or authority interference. Ulbricht's idea was that people should be able to buy and sell anything they want, as long as it didn't harm others. However, the illegality of Silk Road led it to become an attractive target for law enforcement, and a key reason why Ulbricht was charged with multiple crimes related to cybercrime. Bitcoin, the weapon of Silk Road. One of the key factors that enabled Silk Road to exist for as long as it did was the perfect combination of Silk Road and Bitcoin. At the time, Bitcoin was still a relatively new currency and not widely recognized as it is today. However, with its anonymity and decentralized nature, Bitcoin allowed Silk Road to operate without detection, as transactions made using Bitcoin were untraceable by conventional means. When people made transactions on Silk Road, they used Bitcoin instead of traditional money, which allowed them to remain anonymous and created a secure environment for trading drugs, weapons, and other illegal goods. In fact, Bitcoin played a major role in allowing Silk Road to flourish, and it was through the use of Bitcoin that Silk Road gained global recognition. In reality, Silk Road played a huge role in bringing Bitcoin into the global spotlight. By using Bitcoin on Silk Road, the cryptocurrency went from being an obscure digital currency to becoming an important player in the global economy. Silk Road's rapid growth from 2011 to 2013. Silk Road grew into a massive and influential platform with a huge user base. According to reports, by the time Silk Road was shut down by the FBI in 2013, the website had facilitated over $50 billion in transactions, a staggering figure that shows Silk Road wasn't just a small Darknet marketplace, it was a global hub for illegal trade. Silk Road operated on a simple yet highly effective model. Sellers could post their products on the platform, and buyers could choose from a wide variety of items, from drugs to counterfeit goods to even hacker services. All transactions took place anonymously and with a basic understanding of Bitcoin. Anyone could easily engage in the marketplace. However, it was these very transactions that caught the attention of law enforcement agencies. particularly after the FBI discovered frequent drug and weapon-related transactions occurring on Silk Road. This led to the shutdown of Silk Road and the arrest of Ross Ulbricht in 2013. Anonymity and the importance of the Darknet from Silk Road, the Darknet became a key part of the debate about internet freedom and government control. Silk Road was not just a place for illegal transactions. It also served as a platform where people discussed individual rights on the internet and whether governments had the right to intervene in the digital space. However, law enforcement agencies saw the Darknet and platforms like Silk Road as a major threat to national security and social order. As a result, Silk Road's closure was part of a larger campaign by governments to control and stop the growth of online black markets. Conclusion of Part 1. Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht created one of the most controversial stories in the history of Darknet and cryptocurrency. The combination of Silk Road and Bitcoin was not only a revolution in anonymous payments, but also a landmark moment in the development of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Ross Ulbricht and Silk Road sparked important questions about individual freedom, privacy, and security in the digital age. When Silk Road was shut down and Ross Ulbricht was sentenced, we didn't just witness the end of a website, we saw the beginning of a larger debate about the future of freedom in the digital space. In the following parts, we will dive deeper into the investigation, the trial, and the pardon efforts for Ross Ulbricht, as well as the long-term impact of Silk Road on Bitcoin and current cryptocurrency regulatory policies. This story is far from over, and there's much more to discuss in the coming sections. Part 2, the crimes and the investigation. The fall of Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht's arrest. Crimes behind Silk Road. Silk Road wasn't just an online marketplace, it was a digital ecosystem built on the principle of freedom of choice and anonymity. For Ross Ulbricht, it was a utopian vision where people could make their own decisions without the intrusion of government or law enforcement. Unfortunately, this idealistic view collided with the realities of the illegal drug trade, arms trafficking, and other illicit activities, leading to what would become one of the most high-profile cybercrime investigations in history. Silk Road offered an expansive platform for illicit goods, but the site's most prominent offerings were illegal drugs. On Silk Road, users could easily buy and sell a wide variety of controlled substances, from cocaine to heroin, methamphetamine, and marijuana. However, it wasn't just the drug trade that Silk Road facilitated. The platform also offered illegal weapons, counterfeit identities, stolen data, and even hacker services, making it one of the most diverse black market platforms ever created. The illicit nature of Silk Road's business was clear from the outset. By using Bitcoin, transactions were untraceable, allowing users to buy and sell illegal goods without the risk of getting caught by traditional banking systems or credit card companies. Silk Road's anonymity and the decentralized nature of Bitcoin ensured that users could operate without fearing governmental oversight, at least for a time. Ross Ulbricht, through his persona as Dread Pirate Roberts, ran this operation behind the scenes. The site itself was a marketplace of freedom, but the criminal activities it enabled would ultimately lead to its downfall. Ulbricht himself never directly participated in the illicit trades, but his role as the creator, manager, and operator of Silk Road made him the face of the platform and the center of the investigation. Investigating Silk Road. As Silk Road grew in size and influence, so did its notoriety. Law enforcement agencies around the world began to take notice of the massive volume of illegal transactions occurring on the site. The FBI, and other agencies started to investigate the site, building a case that would ultimately bring Silk Road down. Initially, law enforcement's efforts were hampered by the anonymous nature of the Darknet and the use of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which allowed transactions to be difficult to trace. However, they weren't deterred for long. They began to piece together digital footprints, linking transactions back to Ulbricht and the activities on Silk Road. In 2013, an unexpected breakthrough occurred. Law enforcement agents discovered that Ulbricht had accidentally revealed his identity in online forum posts, where he had used his real name in connection with Silk Road's operation. This revelation provided a crucial lead that would eventually lead to his identification and capture. At the same time, FBI agents were investigating a series of Bitcoin transactions that were connected to Silk Road's illegal operations. They discovered that the platform was not only facilitating the exchange of illicit goods, but also laundering millions of dollars in Bitcoin, making it harder for authorities to trace the money trail. One of the most crucial pieces of evidence came from Ulbricht's laptop, which was seized after his arrest. Upon examination, the laptop contained a wealth of information, including internal Silk Road communications, user accounts, and detailed transaction records. The FBI also found messages where Ulbricht had talked about the future of Silk Road, discussing how to improve the platform's security. and eliminate any threat of law enforcement catching him. This provided the authorities with solid evidence of Ulbricht's active involvement in the illegal activities taking place on Silk Road. As the investigation advanced, law enforcement used sophisticated methods to track Bitcoin transactions across multiple wallets, and they quickly realized that Silk Road's operations had spread well beyond the US border. Silk Road had become an international digital criminal syndicate, with users from all corners of the globe engaging in illicit trade. The authorities also discovered that Ulbricht wasn't just running a marketplace. He was also involved in activities to ensure the continued operation of Silk Road, including hiring hitmen to deal with individuals he believed posed a threat to the site's security. This development added a chilling element to the case, as it revealed Ulbricht's willingness to go to extreme lengths to protect his digital empire. The arrest of Ross Ulbricht in the fall of 2013, the FBI finally closed in on Ross Ulbricht. The operation to apprehend him was meticulously planned, as law enforcement knew Ulbricht would be extremely cautious, given the magnitude of his criminal enterprise. On October 1, 2013, Ulbricht was arrested in a public library in San Francisco. While he was logged into the Silk Road server, managing the platform, the arrest was dramatic. Ulbricht was arrested while using his laptop, and at the time of his arrest, the Silk Road website was still operational. Authorities seized millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin from Ulbricht's accounts, along with other assets linked to his illegal activities. The FBI shut down Silk Road, marking the end of a chapter in the history of darknet marketplaces. While Ulbricht's arrest was a significant win for law enforcement, it was also a moment that sparked widespread debate about digital privacy, freedom of speech, and the right to anonymity on the internet. Ross Ulbricht's case raised important questions about the nature of freedom in the digital age, and whether government intervention should limit individuals' ability to operate outside of the state's control. The aftermath and the legal battle breaks. Arrest marked the beginning of a long legal battle that would see him convicted of multiple felony charges, including conspiracy to commit money laundering, hacking, and drug trafficking. The trial was high profile, with prosecutors arguing that Ulbricht's actions were responsible for the rampant illegal activities facilitated by Silk Road. They emphasized his role in managing the platform and enabling the sale of illegal goods. On the other hand, Ulbricht's defense team argued that he had created Silk Road with a philosophical belief in freedom, and that his platform was intended to operate as a marketplace for individuals to exercise their freedom of choice. They contended that he was not personally involved in illegal transactions, but was merely providing a platform that facilitated these activities. Despite the defense's arguments, the jury convicted Ulbricht on all counts. In 2015, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The conviction was controversial, with many individuals, including prominent figures like Edward Snowden, calling for a reevaluation of Ulbricht's sentence. They argued that Ulbricht's actions, though illegal, were more about a philosophical belief in liberty than about criminal intent. At the time of his conviction, the Silk Road case was seen as a landmark in internet law. The questions it raised about digital privacy, government surveillance, and the nature of online freedom would continue to echo in the years that followed. The bigger picture, the future of cryptocurrency in darknet markets case of Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht was not just about the shutdown of a darknet marketplace. It was also about the broader implications of cryptocurrency and anonymous online transactions. Silk Road's use of Bitcoin played a huge role in bringing cryptocurrency into the mainstream financial world. Today, Bitcoin is no longer just a tool for illegal transactions, but has become a recognized asset in global finance despite its controversial origins. The Silk Road case also raised important questions about the balance between security and freedom in the digital world. Should governments have the authority to interfere with or control the internet to prevent illegal activities? What about the right to anonymity? And how does that interact with the state's duty to protect society? In the years since Silk Road was shut down, darknet markets have continued to evolve. New platforms have emerged, but law enforcement has also adapted, using advanced tools to track and shut down these sites. Yet, despite these efforts, the darknet continues to thrive, raising the question of whether it is possible to fully regulate the internet and protect the freedom that so many people value. Conclusion of Part 2. In this part, we've explored the criminal activities that surrounded Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht's role in managing the platform, and the complex investigation that led to his arrest. The case continues to be a critical touchstone in the ongoing debate about privacy, freedom, and the regulation of digital spaces. As we move forward, we'll take a deeper look at the trial, the arguments surrounding Ulbricht's sentencing, and the efforts to secure a pardon. Stay tuned for the next part of this journey, where we will explore the ongoing legal and ethical debates surrounding this controversial case. Part 3, The trial and the sentence, a landmark case and its consequence to the rest of Ross Ulbricht, marked a pivotal moment in the history of the Darknet, cryptocurrency, and the ongoing debate over internet freedom. While the FBI's takedown of Silk Road was seen as a significant victory for law enforcement, it was far from the end of the story. Ulbricht's subsequent trial, conviction, and life sentence would ignite a wave of controversy, both within the digital community and beyond. His case raised important questions about criminal liability, online privacy, the freedom of the internet, and the criminal justice system's handling of tech-related crimes. The trial, legal arguments, and controversy say for Ross Ulbricht was arrested in October 2013. He was charged with several serious crimes. These included conspiracy to commit money laundering, computer hacking, conspiracy to traffic narcotics, and conspiracy to traffic fraudulent identification. Ulbricht's defense team argued that his actions were not those of a criminal mastermind, but rather those of a person trying to create a free marketplace based on the ideals of personal liberty. His goal, they argued, was to offer an anonymous marketplace where individuals could exercise their freedom to buy and sell goods without government interference. The trial, which began in January 2015, became a media sensation, with many drawing parallels between Ulbricht and other internet pioneers who sought to innovate outside traditional systems of control. In one corner, the prosecution presented a case built on the idea that Ulbricht was not just an idealist, but a criminal mastermind who operated one of the world's largest illegal markets. In the other, his defense team argued that Ulbricht was merely creating a space for free commerce, and that he should be seen as a visionary rather than a criminal. A critical piece of the prosecution's case was the massive scale of Silk Road. By the time Ulbricht was arrested, Silk Road had facilitated the exchange of over $1.2 billion worth of illicit goods, mostly drugs. Silk Road also provided the infrastructure for criminals around the world to buy and sell anything from stolen identities to assassination services. The sheer scale of the platform made it clear that Ulbricht was not just a passive participant, he was the architect of the operation. During the trial, the defense tried to argue that Silk Road was not about criminality, but about an experiment in freedom. They emphasized that the marketplace was not limited to illegal goods, but also included books, art, and other goods that were legally available in most countries. The defense team presented Ulbricht as a person with good intentions, seeking to bring about a more open society in which individuals could transact freely without government oversight or control. However, the prosecution focused on the illegal activities that flourished on Silk Road. They pointed to drug trafficking as the central issue, arguing that Ulbricht's creation facilitated the global trade of illegal substances that contributed to widespread harm. The prosecution also emphasized the fact that Ulbricht was actively managing and overseeing these illicit transactions, including hiring hitmen to silence those who posed a threat to his platform. This made the case more complex and dangerous, and it painted Ulbricht as more than just a passive creator. He was, in the eyes of the prosecution, an active player in the criminal enterprise that Silk Road had become. The verdict, a life sentence trial, lasted several weeks, and despite the passionate arguments from Ulbricht's defense, the jury convicted him on all counts in February 2015. Ulbricht was found guilty of 7 felonies, including conspiracy to commit murder, drug trafficking, money laundering, and computer hacking. The most significant charge was that he had conspired to murder a former Silk Road employee who was threatening to expose the platform's operations. This particular charge of murder for hire had the potential to carry a life sentence on its own, and it ultimately played a major role in the final sentencing. On May 29, 2015, Ross Ulbricht was sentenced to life terms in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 40 years. The judge, Catherine Forrest, handed down a sentence that was harsh and unprecedented, making it clear that Ulbricht's actions were viewed as a serious threat to society. Forrest cited the scale of the crimes, the harm caused by the drug trade, and Ulbricht's role as the central figure in the Silk Road enterprise as reasons for the severe punishment. She also mentioned that Ulbricht's actions had caused tremendous harm not only to individuals, but also to society at large, reinforcing the idea that the government had to take a firm stand against such behavior. The verdict was widely criticized. Many felt that Ulbricht's sentence was excessively harsh, especially considering that his intentions were allegedly based on a desire to create a free marketplace rather than to facilitate illegal activities. Critics also pointed out that the sentence seemed disproportionate compared to the sentences handed down to other individuals involved in drug trafficking and money laundering through traditional means. The impact of the sentence, a call for reform sentence handed down to Ross Ulbricht, sparked a wave of controversy. Supporters of Ulbricht included civil liberties groups, cryptocurrency enthusiasts, and digital freedom advocates, argued that the severity of his punishment was inappropriate and out of line with the actual harm caused by his actions. They viewed him as someone who was trying to create a new system for digital freedom, not someone who was purposefully contributing to the global drug trade. One of the most prominent figures in the movement to pardon Ulbricht was Edward Snowden, the former NSA contractor who revealed the extent of the U.S. government's surveillance programs. Snowden argued that Ulbricht's sentence was emblematic of the overreach of government powers, and that it was an example of how the legal system was failing to keep pace with the realities of the digital age. He saw Ulbricht as a whistleblower of sorts, someone who was testing the boundaries of what the internet could and should be. Ulbricht's case became a rallying cry for those advocating for criminal justice reform, particularly in relation to internet freedom and online privacy. Many believe that Ulbricht's heavy-handed punishment was a sign that governments were unwilling to embrace the potential of the internet as a free marketplace. Ulbricht's supporters argued that his actions, while illegal, were more about philosophy and the concept of personal freedom than about committing crimes for profit. Efforts to pardon Ulbricht in the years following his conviction, a growing number of individuals and organizations called for a pardon or reduction in Ulbricht's sentence. Among the most vocal supporters were cryptocurrency pioneers, who believed that Ulbricht's role in the development of Silk Road had helped bring attention to Bitcoin and digital currencies as viable alternatives to traditional financial systems. The call for a pardon became stronger with time, especially as the public's understanding of cryptocurrency and the dangers of excessive government surveillance grew. Ulbricht's case had become more than just about his actions. It had become about the larger implications of how society should regulate digital innovation. Should entrepreneurs who develop new technologies be held criminally responsible for the ways in which their creations are used, even if their original intentions were not criminal? Many viewed Ulbricht's case as a test case for internet freedom, the outpouring of support for him ranging from prominent figures like Snowden to members of the cryptocurrency community reflected a growing sentiment that digital privacy and the right to build anonymous platforms should not be treated as criminal acts. His story sparked debates on the balance between individual freedom and government control in the digital age. The broader implications, a changing landscape with trial and sentencing of Ross Ulbricht, had a profound impact on the way governments and lawmakers approached the issue of digital privacy and cryptocurrency regulation. In the years since his conviction, many governments have worked to develop clearer frameworks for dealing with digital currencies, with an emphasis on cracking down on money laundering and terrorist financing. However, Ulbricht's case remained a central touchpoint in the debate about freedom of the internet and the right to innovate without facing harsh legal consequences. While Ulbricht's sentencing was seen as a victory for law enforcement, it also highlighted the ongoing tensions between the need for privacy and freedom in the digital age and the government's duty to regulate illegal activities. His case underscored the challenges of maintaining a free internet while ensuring that it wasn't used to facilitate illegal operations. Conclusion of Part 3. The trial and life sentence of Ross Ulbricht served as a landmark case in the history of digital freedom and criminal justice. While many continue to question the fairness of his sentence, Ulbricht's story has sparked crucial discussions about how we define freedom in the digital world, the role of government oversight, and the limits of personal responsibility in a rapidly evolving online landscape. In the next parts, we will explore the ongoing legal battles, the call for a pardon, and the long-term effects of Ulbricht's case on cryptocurrency regulation and internet freedom. Stay tuned for more in-depth analysis of the ongoing saga of Ross Ulbricht and Silk Road. Part 4. The impact of Silk Road on Bitcoin and the evolution of the Darknet case of Ross Ulbricht. And Silk Road extends far beyond just the criminal justice system. It had a profound and lasting effect on the world of cryptocurrency, online marketplaces, and the way governments interact with digital currencies. In particular, Silk Road's relationship with Bitcoin and its role in shaping the digital economy cannot be overstated. Beyond the dramatic events of Ulbricht's arrest and trial, the saga of Silk Road represents a watershed moment in the development of Bitcoin, the Darknet, and the future of digital commerce. Bitcoin's role in Silk Road's success. Bitcoin was undoubtedly one of the most crucial elements in Silk Road's success. When Ross Ulbricht launched Silk Road in 2011, Bitcoin was still relatively unknown. At the time, Bitcoin was primarily a curiosity in the tech world, a decentralized peer-to-peer cryptocurrency that was seen as a tool for financial independence. Its design allowed for transactions that were anonymous and borderless, making it the perfect currency for illicit transactions on a platform like Silk Road. Silk Road's reliance on Bitcoin was not accidental, it was central to the platform's business model. By using Bitcoin, Silk Road could sidestep the financial system, bypassing traditional banking infrastructure, which would have flagged and reported large sums of money laundering or other illegal activities. Bitcoin allowed transactions to be pseudonymous and difficult to trace, providing users and sellers a certain level of anonymity that was previously unachievable in online commerce. However, Bitcoin's use on Silk Road wasn't just about facilitating illegal activity. It was part of a larger narrative about digital freedom and the creation of an alternative economy. Ross Ulbricht envisioned Silk Road as a marketplace for liberty, a place where individuals could transact freely without interference from government or centralized authorities. In Ulbricht's view, Bitcoin was not just a cryptocurrency, but a tool for individual empowerment, enabling people to live outside the control of banks and financial institutions. Silk Road played a significant role in introducing Bitcoin to a broader audience, making it more accessible and establishing it as a tool for real-world transactions. As Silk Road gained traction, Bitcoin's value and popularity grew exponentially. What started as a relatively obscure cryptocurrency in 2011, worth only a few cents, saw its price increase dramatically in the wake of Silk Road's success. By 2013, Bitcoin had become a global phenomenon, with many individuals and organizations recognizing its potential as a decentralized, alternative financial system. Silk Road's relationship with Bitcoin was a double-edged sword. However, while it helped legitimize Bitcoin in the eyes of many, it also gave the cryptocurrency a dark reputation. The association with Silk Road and the illegal activities taking place on the platform meant that Bitcoin was often viewed through the lens of criminality. This would later lead to significant challenges for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, as governments began to scrutinize their use for illicit transactions. Bitcoin's evolution after Silk Road's takedown. After the FBI shut down Silk Road in October 2013, Bitcoin experienced both a boom and a bust. The boom came from the fact that, despite Silk Road's takedown, the cryptocurrency continued to thrive. In fact, many saw the takedown as a sign of Bitcoin's resilience. The currency remained strong, with its market value continuing to climb. Bitcoin proved that, despite being associated with the Darknet marketplace, it could survive and even grow stronger in the face of government regulation and legal challenges. Bitcoin's price surge post-Silk Road was significant, as the cryptocurrency began to be seen as a legitimate alternative to traditional financial systems. More businesses, including major online platforms and even some financial institutions, began accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment. The 2013-2014 period marked a time of rapid adoption, with Bitcoin's value rising from around $100 in late 2013 to over $1,000 per coin in late 2017. This growth was not without its challenges. However, Bitcoin remained associated with the Darknet and illicit activity, which made some businesses and consumers wary of its use. Additionally, Bitcoin's price volatility remained a concern, making it difficult for the cryptocurrency to be adopted as a stable store of value. As Bitcoin's market cap grew, governments began to take a more active interest in regulating the cryptocurrency, especially as its use in illegal activities persisted. Yet, despite these challenges, Bitcoin's position as a global currency became undeniable. The cryptocurrency industry began to mature, and Bitcoin was joined by other digital currencies such as Ethereum, Ripple, and Litecoin, each offering unique advantages and solutions to the issues Bitcoin faced. As Bitcoin became more widely accepted, the blockchain technology that underpinned it gained recognition as a disruptive force in the world of finance, with many businesses looking for ways to incorporate distributed ledger technology into their operations. The Darknet after Silk Road. While Silk Road's takedown was a significant blow to Darknet markets, it did not end the phenomenon of Darknet marketplaces. In the aftermath of Silk Road's closure, new sites began to emerge, each with slightly improved security and more advanced methods of avoiding law enforcement detection. Silk Road's fall was a wake-up call for both governments and Darknet users. Law enforcement had proven they could bring down the world's largest illegal marketplace, but users quickly learned to adapt and create new platforms. One of the most prominent successors to Silk Road was Alphabet, which was launched in 2014 and quickly became the largest Darknet marketplace after Silk Road. However, in 2017, Alphabet was taken down in a coordinated operation between the FBI and international law enforcement. This event confirmed that, even after Silk Road, Darknet markets were still very much under threat from authorities. Despite these takedowns, Darknet markets continue to thrive today, with a variety of marketplaces operating in the shadows. These marketplaces sell everything from drugs and counterfeit goods to stolen personal data and fraudulent financial services. The use of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies remains central to these operations, ensuring that transactions can continue to take place with a high degree of anonymity. In many ways, Silk Road's legacy continues to shape the evolution of the Darknet. The lessons learned from Silk Road's downfall, such as the importance of security and anonymity, have informed the development of new markets, more sophisticated privacy techniques, like the use of Tor the Onion router to hide users' IP addresses, and the adoption of multi-signature Bitcoin wallets have made it more difficult for law enforcement to infiltrate these marketplaces. However, while new marketplaces continue to emerge, the risks involved in operating in the darknet are greater than ever. Law enforcement agencies have become more adept at infiltrating these spaces, tracking cryptocurrency transactions and arresting those involved in illegal activities. The increased surveillance and legal crackdowns on darknet markets have created an atmosphere of uncertainty, making it much harder for marketplaces to operate without facing the threat of law enforcement intervention. Bitcoin and the future of digital currency. A story of Silk Road and its relationship with Bitcoin serves as a reminder of the disruptive potential of digital currencies. While Bitcoin's association with illicit activities on Silk Road may have initially tarnished its reputation, it also played a role in Bitcoin's evolution into a legitimate global currency. As the world continues to explore the potential of cryptocurrency, it's clear that blockchain technology and digital currencies will continue to have a major impact on the global economy. Bitcoin has proven that it is not just a tool for criminals. It has become a legitimate alternative to traditional financial systems, offering greater transparency, lower fees, and the ability to move value across borders without the need for banks or intermediaries. With the rise of stablecoins and central bank digital currencies (CBDCs), the future of digital currencies appears brighter than ever. Governments and financial institutions are exploring ways to create their own digital currencies, while private cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum continue to grow and gain acceptance. Despite the controversy surrounding Silk Road, Bitcoin's evolution from a criminal tool to a mainstream asset is one of the most significant stories in the world of finance and technology. Conclusion. Part 4. In this part, we've explored the profound impact of Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht's platform on Bitcoin and the darknet. Silk Road played a major role in introducing Bitcoin to the world and helping it evolve from an obscure digital asset into a powerful tool with global financial implications. The continued existence of darknet markets, despite the takedowns of Silk Road and Alphabet, shows that online black markets are far from gone. At the same time, the increasing regulation of cryptocurrencies by governments around the world demonstrates that digital currencies are becoming an increasingly important part of the global financial system. The story of Silk Road and Bitcoin is far from over, and as we move into the future, the digital economy will only continue to grow and evolve. Stay tuned for Part 5, where we will examine the ongoing legal battle surrounding Ross Ulbricht, the fight for his freedom, and the implications of his case for cryptocurrency regulation. Part 5, the pardon effort and the ongoing legal battle, the fight for Ross Ulbricht's freedom in the years following Ross Ulbricht's arrest and subsequent life sentence. The call for his pardon gained traction from both prominent individuals and advocacy groups around the world. While Ulbricht's case became a landmark trial for digital freedom and online privacy, it also sparked a larger conversation about the criminal justice system, the right to privacy, and the government's role in regulating digital technologies. As we move forward into Part 5, we'll explore the legal battles that followed Ulbricht's conviction, the growing movement calling for his release, and the broader implications of his case for the future of digital innovation and cryptocurrency regulation. The fight for justice, Ulbricht's supporters, and advocacy efforts. Ulbricht's case quickly gained international attention, especially among digital privacy advocates, cryptocurrency pioneers, and libertarian groups. While the legal system had delivered its verdict, many felt that the sentence was unjust and that Ross was being punished far too severely for what they believed to be the creation of a digital marketplace for freedom. The campaign to free Ross Ulbricht began almost immediately after his conviction, and the arguments for his release continued to gain momentum in the years following his life sentence. The most prominent figures in this movement included well-known privacy advocates such as Edward Snowden, Caitlin Long, a blockchain advocate, and various members of the cryptocurrency community, who all saw Ulbricht's case as a symbol of the dangers of excessive government control over digital spaces. Supporters of Ulbricht argued that his intent was never to facilitate criminal activity, but rather to create a free market platform where people could engage in voluntary trade without the interference of governments or regulators. They contended that while Ulbricht's creation of Silk Road inadvertently facilitated illegal activity, his actions were in line with principles of individual liberty and personal freedom. For many, Ulbricht's sentence was viewed as a draconian response to an experiment that, at its core, was rooted in a philosophical belief in free markets and limited government interference. The Free Ross Ulbricht movement garnered a lot of attention and support through petitions, crowdfunding campaigns, and rallies. Many called for a commutation of his sentence, urging authorities to recognize the flaws in the trial process and reconsider the harshness of the penalty. Some went even further, calling for complete pardons, as they believed the punishment did not fit the crime, and that Ulbricht had already served enough time behind bars. Arguments for and against a pardon. Arguments in favor of a pardon for Ulbricht were based on several key points, with the most notable being the disproportionate nature of his sentence. Those in favor of a pardon pointed out that while Ulbricht's creation of Silk Road was illegal, his actions did not result in direct harm to individuals. In contrast, they argued that his sentence was far more severe than sentences handed down to individuals involved in more traditional forms of drug trafficking or money laundering. For example, Ulbricht received a life sentence, while individuals who were found guilty of drug crimes typically received sentences much shorter than his. Another strong argument for Ulbricht's pardon was the question of intent. Proponents of Ulbricht's release highlighted the fact that he never personally engaged in the sale of illicit drugs or other illegal goods, nor was there any evidence suggesting that he personally profited from these activities in a direct way. Rather, Ulbricht was seen as the facilitator of a platform where individuals could trade freely, while the consequences of his actions led to widespread drug distribution. Many saw Ulbricht as someone who believed in the right to trade without government interference, not as a criminal mastermind. Moreover, many advocates of Ulbricht's freedom argued that his life sentence was overly harsh when compared to other individuals who had been convicted of similar crimes. The digital privacy community viewed the severe punishment as an exaggerated response to a technological innovation, making it a symbol of the state's overreach in regulating the internet and new forms of currency like Bitcoin. However, the opposing view was that the illegal activities that Silk Road enabled were far too serious to overlook. Critics of Ulbricht's actions emphasized the drug trafficking that was taking place on the platform and the devastating impact of illegal drugs on society. They argued that while Ulbricht may have had noble intentions, his platform became a breeding ground for criminal behavior that had long-lasting negative effects on countless individuals and families. In this view, Silk Road wasn't just a marketplace for freedom, it was an illegal operation that contributed to the global drug trade and other harmful activities. Moreover, some critics contended that pardon efforts for Ulbricht were misguided, and that granting him a pardon would send the wrong message. They believed that a pardon would undermine the rule of law and encourage other individuals to create illegal platforms under the guise of freedom and liberty. According to this perspective, digital freedom should not come at the expense of the law, and Ulbricht's actions warranted a harsh sentence in order to set an example for others. The legal journey, efforts for appeal, and reconsideration. Why Ulbricht's supporters rallied for a pardon. His legal team also fought tirelessly to have his conviction overturned or reduced. In 2016, Ulbricht's lawyers filed an appeal arguing that his trial was unfair and that the evidence presented was insufficient to justify the severity of the sentence. One of the major points raised in the appeal was the fact that Ulbricht's defense was not given a fair opportunity to present their arguments regarding his intent. They argued that the court had focused too much on the negative consequences of Silk Road, while neglecting the philosophical reasons behind Ulbricht's actions. According to Ulbricht's team, he was a young idealist trying to build a platform for freedom, not someone who intended to promote criminal activity. They pointed out that Silk Road's focus was not purely on illegal drugs, but also on other forms of exchange such as books and information, which were not inherently criminal. The appeal also raised questions about the fairness of the sentencing process. Ulbricht's defense team argued that his life sentence was disproportionate, especially when compared to others convicted of similar offenses. They emphasized that Ulbricht was never a drug dealer or violent criminal, and his actions should not be treated as though they warranted the harshest punishment available. The appeals process, however, did not yield a favorable result for Ulbricht. In 2017, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals upheld his conviction and sentence, ruling that the trial had been conducted fairly and that Ulbricht's intent did not justify reducing his punishment. The court ruled that Silk Road's influence on global drug trade was too significant to ignore, and that Ulbricht's role in facilitating those transactions deserved serious consequences. Despite this setback, Ulbricht's supporters remained vocal. Calls for presidential intervention grew louder, especially as Ulbricht's case became a symbol of the larger fight for digital freedom and the right to innovate without excessive government control. The potential for a pardon. Can Ulbricht's sentence be reduced? One of the most significant moments in the pardon campaign came during the Trump administration, when Ulbricht's supporters made their case to President Donald Trump. The movement reached its peak when Edward Snowden, Caitlin Long, and other influential figures in the cryptocurrency and privacy advocacy community began publicly calling for the presidential pardon. Some believe that the case for Ulbricht's pardon could be made on the grounds of justice reform, especially considering the growing awareness of the issues surrounding digital privacy, online marketplaces, and personal freedom. Proponents argued that a presidential pardon would send a strong message about the importance of protecting freedom in the digital world. while recognizing the need for criminal justice reform. While there is no guarantee that Ulbricht will ever receive a pardon, his case continues to spark conversations about the future of internet freedom, cryptocurrency, and the criminal justice system. The ongoing fight for Ross Ulbricht's freedom represents the intersection of technology and law, and it underscores the challenges that modern societies face as they attempt to regulate the digital world. Ulbricht's legacy and the future of digital privacy. Ross Ulbricht's case is far from over, but his legacy has already made an impact. Silk Road was more than just a website for illegal transactions. It was an experiment in freedom of choice and individual autonomy. While Ulbricht's creation led to criminal activity, it also raised crucial questions about the future of the internet, the role of cryptocurrencies, and the relationship between technology and the law. As digital currencies continue to rise in popularity and blockchain technology finds its way into mainstream applications, Ulbricht's story will continue to serve as a cautionary tale. His case serves as a reminder that while technology can empower individuals and change the world, it can also have unintended consequences. The future of cryptocurrency will likely be shaped by the lessons learned from the Silk Road debacle. Conclusion of Part 5. In this part, we've explored the efforts to pardon Ross Ulbricht, the arguments for and against his release, and the broader legal and ethical implications of his case. His fight for freedom continues, and while it remains uncertain whether Ulbricht will ever receive a pardon, his story has sparked important conversations about internet freedom, digital privacy, and cryptocurrency regulation. As we continue to see the development of digital currencies and blockchain technology, Ulbricht's legacy will likely shape future debates about the balance between innovation and legal responsibility in the digital age. In the next parts, we will continue to follow the journey of Ross Ulbricht and explore the long-term effects of his case on the world of cryptocurrency and online freedom. Part 6, Legacy and the Future of Ross Ulbricht and Silk Road. Long-term impact. Story of Ross Ulbricht and Silk Road is not just a legal tragedy, but also an essential part of the history of cryptocurrency, personal freedom, and government control over digital technologies. While Ulbricht faced a harsh sentence, his story has left an important legacy that continues to influence cryptocurrency policy and the debates about internet freedom. Even though Ulbricht was sentenced to life imprisonment and has little chance of getting a reduced sentence, the legacy of Silk Road and Bitcoin continues to affect the digital economy and online marketplaces. In this part, we will explore the future of Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht's legacy, and the long-term impact of the case on cryptocurrency and personal freedom on the internet. Silk Road and the legacy of Ross Ulbricht. Silk Road may have been shut down and Ross Ulbricht convicted, but its impact still persists. While Silk Road promoted a black market ecosystem full of risks and illegal activities, it also brought Bitcoin into the spotlight and helped it evolve into a global financial instrument. Silk Road was the place where Bitcoin became the primary method of payment for millions of anonymous transactions, helping Bitcoin grow from a digital curiosity to a mainstay in the world of digital finance. Furthermore, Silk Road helped the world recognize that, in an increasingly technology-driven society, the ability to regulate transactions on the internet is becoming more challenging. Companies, governments, and legal authorities are now faced with a big question. How do you protect individual privacy while simultaneously preventing illegal activities? This is an issue that remains unresolved today. Although Silk Road had many negative consequences, it was also part of the digital freedom revolution on the internet. It reflected one part of Ross Ulbricht's vision for personal liberty. However, Silk Road also serves as a reminder of the risks that come with unregulated platforms, which can easily become tools for criminal activity, and how digital platforms need to take responsibility for the impact they create. Bitcoin, from black market to global asset. After the rise of Silk Road, Bitcoin went through a real revolution. Although Bitcoin was initially associated with Silk Road and illicit transactions, over time, Bitcoin evolved from a black market currency to a legitimate global asset used for legal transactions around the world. Since Silk Road was shut down in 2013, Bitcoin has been constantly growing. Widely accepted by users in online transactions, Bitcoin is no longer just an anonymous payment tool for illegal activities, but has become a mainstream method of payment in international business. Bitcoin has become a popular choice for investment, with many financial institutions now including Bitcoin in their investment portfolios. Bitcoin surged from a tool for illegal transactions to an official currency in the digital economy is one of the most significant moments in the world of finance and technology. However, the development of Bitcoin has partly been influenced by the Silk Road story, where Bitcoin became an indispensable medium of exchange on the platform. Additionally, the rise of other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, Ripple, and Litecoin has driven the advancement of blockchain technology. Blockchain is not just the foundation of cryptocurrencies. but also opens up new possibilities in e-commerce, financial management, and even political systems. The long-term impact of Silk Road on darknet markets. Although Silk Road has been shut down, the darknet and dark web marketplaces continue to exist and grow. After Silk Road was shut down by authorities, a new wave of platforms emerged, many with improved security features to avoid detection by law enforcement. However, after each takedown, the creators and users of darknet markets quickly found ways to improve and restructure their websites to evade legal detection. New darknet markets not only sell drugs and weapons, but also offer illegal services, such as hacking bank accounts, stolen personal data, and extortion systems. This demonstrates that, even after Silk Road's closure, the demand for anonymous transactions remains strong within the digital anarchist community. However, with the advancement of technology and increasing global cooperation in combating cybercrime, these darknet markets are facing even greater scrutiny. The Bitcoin system and blockchain technologies have made it easier for law enforcement to track and monitor illegal activities, creating an atmosphere of greater uncertainty for these marketplaces. The increased surveillance and legal crackdowns on darknet markets have made it much harder for marketplaces to operate without facing the threat of enforcement intervention. Lessons from Silk Road, freedom and regulation. Story of Silk Road, and Ross Ulbricht teaches us valuable lessons about personal freedom and government regulation on the internet. In an increasingly technology-driven world, the issue of balancing personal freedom with government control is crucial. As the digital space continues to grow, the question of privacy rights and individual freedom in the online world will remain an important topic. Ross Ulbricht in Silk Road raised an important question about how freedom is defined in a society where every transaction can be conducted anonymously through the internet. If an individual creates a platform with the ideal of free trade, should they be harshly punished for the illegal activities that their platform may facilitate? Should freedom be protected, or should overregulation prevent any creativity and innovation? The future of Silk Road and cryptocurrency. Although Silk Road is no longer operational, the values and lessons it left behind will continue to influence cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Governments and law enforcement agencies continue to face the challenge of regulating cryptocurrency transactions while also protecting citizens' privacy. The decentralized cryptocurrency system has grown rapidly, and its influence on traditional finance is undeniable. Governments are being forced to rethink their legal frameworks for currencies and online transactions. In addition to Bitcoin, the rise of stablecoins and central bank digital currencies (CBDCs) indicates that the future of digital currencies looks brighter than ever. Governments and financial institutions are exploring ways to create their own digital currencies, while private cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum continue to grow and gain acceptance. Despite the controversy surrounding Silk Road, the evolution of Bitcoin from a criminal tool to a mainstream asset is one of the most significant stories in the world of finance and technology. Conclusion of Part 6. In this part, we explored the profound impact of Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht's platform on Bitcoin and the darknet. Silk Road played a major role in introducing Bitcoin to the world and helping it evolve from an obscure digital asset into a powerful tool with global financial implications. The continued existence of darknet markets, despite the takedowns of Silk Road and Alphabet, shows that online black markets are far from gone. At the same time, the increasing regulation of cryptocurrencies by governments around the world demonstrates that digital currencies are becoming an increasingly important part of the global financial system. The story of Silk Road and Bitcoin is far from over, and as we move into the future, the digital economy will only continue to grow and evolve. Stay tuned for Part 7, where we will examine the ongoing legal battle surrounding Ross Ulbricht, the fight for his freedom, and the implications of his case for cryptocurrency regulation and internet freedom. Thank you for watching and joining us in exploring the story of Ross Ulbricht and Silk Road, a dramatic tale with far-reaching impacts on cryptocurrency, personal freedom, and government control over the internet. We hope that what we shared has helped you gain a deeper understanding of Silk Road, Bitcoin, and the profound effects this story has had on the digital economy. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and share it with your friends so they can also discover this story. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos covering fascinating and meaningful stories here at Room 57. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and join the discussion about the issues that Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht's story bring up. Do you think Ross Ulbricht deserves a pardon? Or can this story change how we view personal freedom and government control in the digital world? Stay tuned for the next videos with more interesting and engaging stories at Room 57. Thank you and see you in the next video.